Former Gopher and Wild blueliner Keith Ballard joins us to celebrate Milestone episode 50, where we find out if he really majored in underwater basket weaving as suggested by Paul Martin. That plus college hockey bubbles, NWHL hockey bubbles, Kendall Coyne breaking more glass ceilings, and the great tendy debate, all coming up in episode 50.
Hunters, fishermen, and Minnesota sports fans, new and old, locally owned and operated Soda Stick offers the widest variety of gear and garb to dress you and your fandoms. Toss it back old school with Remember the Metrodome tee, or look sharp with any of their latest McGolden Light collaboration collection. Add that Bardown Beauties promo code at checkout for free shipping on all purchases. Hello, everybody. Hello, Fred. Fred loves when I say hello like that. Look at him just.
He's trying to break your brand. Last week he made you do it differently.
I know,
and
I
you
don't
know what?
like
I
it.
lost a little sleep over it. I was like, he's really trying to cut the brand up and just switch it up on us.
You know, I'm just trying to make you guys stronger. I break you down to your foundation and rebuild it.
That's fair.
Spoken like a true dad. That's just wonderful. What's going on, everybody? We're doing a little bit of an early record day. Happy Thanksgiving, even though this will be released, obviously, post-Thanksgiving, but we're recording ahead of Thanksgiving. So to my fellow Buttes here, happy Thanksgiving, you guys. What are the plans? What do we got going on for tea gives?
Well, you know, obviously everything is all mixed up this year. So we're doing a quiet Thanksgiving at my parents' house. It'll be just me, my mom and dad and sister. But it should be fun. We're going to do a big breakfast. We always do that. Then watch the Thanksgiving Day parade and then try to empty our bellies out and save room for a big dinner. My mom is actually very excited to cook. Normally we go to my grandma's, but my mom was saying she's very excited to cook this year. So hopefully everything tastes good. My one request was deviled eggs, and she's making that. So I'm happy if I get my deviled eggs.
Nice.
My mom
Fred,
entered our bubble.
Nice.
So my mom has been here since last week. So we are going to be full mom mode for Thanksgiving.
So you get to relax, Fred.
Yeah, the whole time she's here around Thanksgiving, I always remind her about that one Thanksgiving where she added raisins to stuffing. Every time. I just have to remind her. Remember that one time you added raisins?
Now you owe me forever.
So she's not touching the stuffing this year, I hope.
No, she's not touching. She keeps asking me, "What is there a special dish you want?" I'm like, just not the stuffing with the raisins.
She's going to come marching down the stairs, bust open your office door. What did you say about my raisins?
I'm sure she does a lovely job. Yeah, we're just doing myself, my husband, and the kids. We've done that though before. Like honestly, usually, like I was telling you guys before we started recording, I'm at practice usually today, and even sometimes on Thanksgiving. Like I'll try to load up with stuff on Wednesday, but I've gone to Thanksgiving practices, and then we always have the Black Friday game.
Oh, rip the Black Friday
year,
game.
Which is great, but my parents live 5 hours away, so we're not usually together for Thanksgiving.
So you're just living your best life. This is a normal Thanksgiving for you.
Dude, I love
Happy to hear it.
I like cooking. I still make way too much food. Like I still cook like there are like 8 people at the dinner table, right?
You got to do that. Yeah.
I mean, so we'll eat plenty. I enjoy not having to really fully get dressed like my mom likes me to do. Like I don't have to hear is that what you're wearing today? Like, yes, this is what I'm wearing today because it's my house. This is
that's
what
why
I'm
you
doing.
record with me, because that's what I tell you.
Yeah, exactly. Always keeping us in check. So again, hopefully everybody had a safe, happy holidays, Thanksgiving time, moving forward into the holiday season. So looking forward to it. We've got hockey news though, in addition to some turkey news. NWHL comes out with a big announcement today on the day we're recording. Imagine that. They've got a plan moving forward. Alexis, what do you know?
Well, I just got to say props to the NWHL, first of all, for announcing it before the episode recording rather than after, like the NHL always likes to do. So at least we could get this in today's episode recording. But yes, they have announced their plan for the upcoming season. I just got the email literally about 10 minutes before we started recording. They are going to do a bubble at Lake Placid in New York. So the plan is to do the bubble, have all the teams go there. Late January is when the teams are going to be arriving. And basically how the season is going to go is each team is going to play each of the other teams one time. So each team will play 5 games. And then they are going to do like a bracket system for the playoffs. So it'll be a condensed season. It'll be a bubble season. They're going to do testing. They're going to do all of that. So that is the plan. Players will be arriving late January. A note that I saw in it that I thought was pretty cool, just given the circumstances of the league. They allowed the players the chance to opt out and receive their full salary still. And as of right now, 95% of the players have committed to playing for the season. So I think that's awesome that they offered them that opportunity, because obviously it's scary times and the world is weird. And to offer them the chance to say, hey, if you don't want to do this, we understand, we'll still pay pay you is great. But even better yet, I think it's awesome that so many players have already said, I want to play. So that's the plan. There's a lot more details. You guys can go check out their, the website, check out social media for more details on that. But that's kind of in a nutshell what's going on.
In a bubble, if you will, right?
In a bubble, if you will. Great one, Jesse. But we'll be here all week. Yeah, so that is their plan. Love to see, news coming out as these teams and leagues figure out how their seasons are going to go. Super excited about that. Very sad that I will not be able to obviously partake in that, as the bubble will take place out in New York. So they are going to be announcing a broadcast schedule and everything. So my assumption would be that they're going to choose likely one of the East Coast broadcasting teams to do that. But they didn't say in the press release who that was going to be yet. So stay tuned for all of that if you want to be able to watch those games. Obviously, more info will be coming out in the next few weeks here, but very excited to see that come out today.
Yeah, exciting to know that the league's kind of moving forward. Obviously, the bubble worked for the NHL, the NCHC, and college hockey is trying to do the bubble situation. It seems to be kind of the safest bet and the one that you can really execute a full season a little bit more safely. I mean, the one question I have with that is you still have so many NWHL players who have jobs, right? And so how do you kind of work that into the fold too, which is why I do love to hear that if you opt out, you still get your salary from the NWHL, but I do wonder how flexible jobs maybe are being to allow these women to go and play the sport too.
Well, and I'm sure doing a condensed season probably helps a lot with that, because in the grand scheme of things, they don't have to take as much time off of work. Think about a normal NWHL season starts in October like the NHL does, and it goes through March. So it's a couple months shorter than an NHL season, but starts around the same time. So you're chopping a couple months off of that. So for these players who will maybe have to miss work because of it, hopefully that helps a little bit, that it's not as much time. Again, I don't know what everyone's
remote working, right?
Yeah,
we're all down to that. So maybe that's a possibility.
Maybe there will be some computers and Zoom calls in the hotel room. I'm not sure what that'll look like, but I'm happy to hear that they've got a plan figured out, and that we'll be watching NWHL hockey in a couple months here.
Heck yeah, let's go. Let's get some hockey rocking and rolling. On the female side of things, Kendall Coyne hired as the first female player development coach with the Chicago Blackhawks. Are you a Blackhawks fan now, Alexis?
No, I'm not. That was a joke. It even pained me to make that tweet. I was like, God, this is just so not my brand. I can't do this. But I was so excited to see her get hired on that it was worth the joke. So
heck yeah.
Not a Blackhawks fan, but I am a Kendall Coyne fan, and I'm a fan of what they did this week. That's for sure.
She continues doing her thing. She was obviously a part of the San Jose broadcasting team. So she makes that transition. She'll also be working very heavily with the team's youth initiatives and growing the girls and women's game there in Chicago. She's an Illinois native, so it's nice for her to, I'm sure, go back home and be a part of that. So good on Kendall. Way to go. Excited to see more girls and more women fill roles like that. Like it's so funny that we say it all the time. It's like, just do it. If they're qualified, they're qualified, right?
Yeah, a couple things about this story that stood out to me the most. Illinois native, so it's super cool to see players, coaches, media return to their home states, their hometowns, working with their home teams. That is such a cool thing. I know, I feel super blessed to work with the Wild, having grown up watching them and all of that. It's a cool feeling. So
it's just like a player going home. It's just as exciting for us to cover the team that we grew up watching. Yeah.
So I thought that was super cool. The other thing that is awesome is, the Blackhawks actually are kind of ahead of the game when it comes to hiring women. They've got 2 other women in, behind the scenes roles with staff and stuff like that. One, I think, with analytics, and another with like video coaching.
And I believe she just got elevated well. I forget her name, but yes, exactly.
Megan.
She got promoted. Yes.
Megan Hunter, I think, is her last name. So she just got promoted, and then now they're bringing in Kendall. So they've got 3 women in pretty important roles among the team, which is awesome to see. And what I love about Kendall's position is extremely qualified. They picked a great person to do this job. B, the Blackhawks have already admitted to a rebuild. The role that Kendall is going to be in is going to be shaping these players that are coming up in the upcoming years. She's in a player development role in the middle of a rebuild for a team. That's a huge accomplishment to say, we trust you to be building these players up that we are hoping are going to be superstars someday. So the timing of it is absolutely amazing to me. I love that they've trusted her with this. I think she's going to do a fantastic job. And I read an article where she even said, she's like, I'm aware of the responsibility in a rebuild that my position has. So she knows what the stakes are, and I cannot wait to see her thrive in that position. She's done a lot of awesome things in the hockey world, and she continues to do them. So congrats to her. I am very excited to see what she does with them.
Go get them, girls. Let's keep it rolling. College hockey happening during the week. I'm kind of loving all the college hockey. Gophers are playing on Monday nights. You've got Wednesday games.
Like, I'm on Twitter. I'm like, oh yeah, there's a game going on. I should probably turn that on. Like, I'm like, it feels weird that there's games just going on at all times of the day. Yeah.
I'm loving it. I do want to give props to the NCHC who released their protocol for their season because they haven't started. They're slated to start on December 1st. They're going to do the bubbles in Omaha, which everybody kind of knew. But the thing that I found most interesting about the way that they're approaching it, if one player on a team tests positive, that doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to shut down the entire team and they're going to do that, which I think is something that we haven't really seen, right? As soon as one person tests positive, you know, the way it goes through a team, it can be quick to shut down. But I like it. I mean, they're doing the bubble in essence to try to keep everything safe. But I think sometimes, it doesn't necessarily mean you have to postpone game after game and cancel and pause and do that. So I like their approach. It's different. I'm curious to see how it works out again with them being in the bubble. I imagine positive tests are going to be far and few between anyway. But
especially
I
after
like
they get going.
Yeah, because I think that's the thing that's been plaguing sports is the constant stopping and shutting down of things, right? It's so hard to get literally in your momentum going from watching or playing when there's that much pause. So I think that's probably my favorite part. I'm excited to see NCHC hockey. You've got UMD, you've got Denver, you got St. Cloud, all of those teams that we all love to watch and have been thriving lately. They're going to get going. So let's rock and roll.
Yeah, I did my best to sift through the protocols of the bubble last night, but it was a lot.
Our buddy Josh loves to really make things down to dot all of his I's and cross all his T's.
I'm losing track of all the bubbles. I can't keep the protocols straight. There's too much going on. So I did my best to sift through it last night and kind of get the gist of what they were doing. I thought the most interesting thing, what you said was one of them. And another thing that really stood out to me, and maybe the NHL did this and I just didn't even realize it, but the whole tiered system that they're doing, where there's like certain tiers of like, these people can interact with these people and these people, but the step below them can only interact with these people. And like, there's only certain areas that certain people can go in the rink depending on what tier you're in. So I thought that was kind of cool to allow people interaction, but also keep people away from others who don't need to have that interaction. So you're just trying to minimize more, interaction between people. So I thought that was a really cool system that they had laid out. And the fact that they're going to try to move forward without shutting everything down upon one positive test. They've got a whole protocol laid out for what that person has to do, all the testing upon getting into the bubble. So it looks like a really solid plan. I'm excited to see it acted out, and hopefully they can get through a season safely and see some fun hockey.
Heck yeah, congrats to Josh Fenton, a fellow Butte of ours, Mr. Commish, on getting that going. So we're excited. And congrats to Dave Starman, who had told us will be in the bubble as well. So excited for him to get back into action. All right, Alexis, now it's going to be your favorite.
All right, I'm ready. I've been prepping for this.
Our up for debate poll of the week was best Minnesota Wild tendy in franchise history.
And Jesse, once again, just leaving Dubnyk out, just riling everybody up.
He's gone. Get out of here. No, I mean, I think, but for me, it was really, I left out my personal favorite, who was Dwayne Rolson. I understand he went on to bigger, better things at Edmonton, but he was my favorite. I took him off for the good of the poll.
I think you put three good ones out there.
It was really hard. I mean, how do you can't. So then if I put Devin in, and again, this is no slight to Devin, I think what he did here was also tremendous, especially coming from obscurity in Arizona and doing nothing to really transforming his career and taking this team up a level. But then what, do you want me to remove Manny Fernandez? Do you want me to remove Josh Harding, or do you want me to remove Nicholas Backstrom? Alexis probably would not talk to me if I removed Nicholas Backstrom.
I would be already putting out a request for a new co-host if that was the case. Yeah.
You already had like the job description lined up. Like, she's gone.
I'm on Indeed.com, just ready to launch it. Just let me know when.
I mean, so we know Nicholas Backstrom is your selection, right? Best tender.
With good reason. All right.
Let's hear it.
Okay. So I know there is like a niche of people in Minnesota who believe that Josh Harding was the best goaltender the Wild have ever seen. And I have so many questions for those people, and we don't have enough time to get into what is wrong with those people. But what I'm not trying to say that Josh Harding was a bad goaltender by any means. He's definitely up there as one of the better goaltenders who've played a significant amount of games for the Minnesota Wild. Putting aside my bias, because when I was growing up, Backstrom was my favorite. I absolutely loved him for the entire time he was in Minnesota. When he left, I was devastated. And Josh Harding was his backup. So I always felt a little bit of bitterness towards Josh Harding because I just wanted to see Backstrom play and succeed all the time. So when Harding went in, I was just mad that I didn't get to watch Backstrom. So I had a little bit of bias towards him growing up to begin with. Now looking at it in a clear picture, I understand he's a very talented goaltender, but I still think you look at the numbers, and granted, Josh Harding has some slightly better numbers in save percentage and goals against. Not by much, but he also played a significantly fewer amount of games than Nicklas Backstrom. Backstrom has played the most games for the Minnesota Wild, 409. Devin Dubnyk just behind him with 328. Josh Harding only played 151 games. So you have to take that into consideration when you look at his numbers. I was ready.
So
this is my time to shine. So I would say Nicklas Backstrom, given the amount of games he played, was the best netminder that the Minnesota Wild have seen. And I just want to give a couple little side notes to that. I'm not going to ramble for too long because I want to hear Jesse's opinion as well. Yes. But someone made a really good point in the comments on the tweet that Nicklas Backstrom, when he was our main netminder, we had great defense and terrible offense. So the Wild were losing games, very low-scoring games. They were losing 1-goal games because our offense was not providing. So Backstrom kind of got the short end of the stick on some of those statistics because he was playing very well but wasn't getting help from his offense. So the other thing that I would say is when Devin Dubnyk came to the Minnesota Wild, he had a stretch of like 3 years where he was in the top goaltender stats over the whole league, like top 3 for like goals against average, save percentage, and I think wins. Yeah. So he had a tremendous start with the Minnesota Wild, and obviously we saw what happened in the last few years. He wasn't the same Devin Dubnyk that we knew when he came in, but he really kind of lit a fire under the Wild for the first few seasons he was with us. So I would say Nicklas Backstrom is at the top. And I would say a close second would be either Manny or Devin Dubnyk. Josh Harding is up there, but he's definitely not in the top 2 or 3, in my opinion. I rest my case.
I'm in the Josh Harding camp, so that's really good to know. Jesse! No, like I said, truly, my favorite goaltender was Dwayne Rolson. I remember him. He was only here, like I said, 4 seasons, but he had a .919 save percentage. He is a great goalie. He was a lot of fun to watch. Again, he backed up Manny Fernandez, who
him and Manny were a great tandem.
They were a great tandem. Yep. Like you could trust either one of them in that net, and it was so much fun to watch. And again, those are some exhilarating times with the Wild and watching them do that. And again, Manny gets the higher accolades because he was the official starter. But I think Dwayne was really, really great. And we saw what he could do then in Edmonton, right? Everyone was so mad when you watch him go up there and you're like, Rolly, like what could have been here? Yeah. Unfortunately, he never got the shot. So technically, that's my number 1 selection. Again, I removed him. Yes, I love Dubnyk. Again, he's the one goalie I've had the opportunity to cover. So personality and personal friendships aside, if you will. I like Josh Harding, though. I really enjoyed watching him play. I think he struggled, obviously, with injuries and then the diagnosis of MS. And I think to watch him go through those hurdles, I like the story, right? Like, I love watching a good goaltender. So, but even put some of those stats aside, I love the story of him and everything that he's become and how he still is out there advocating for this. And again, he didn't have bad. He was here for 8 seasons. Yeah. You know, he was here for such a long, long time. He became kind of a staple in Minnesota.
And it's hard to shine as a backup goaltender. I mean, you could be a tremendous athlete and a tremendous goalie. And if you're the backup, you're kind of going to be just second fiddle when it comes to looking at those statistics. And I know a lot of people were saying like, well, if Josh Harding would have been able to finish out his career, no MS diagnosis, just say he gets to keep playing. Maybe he gets a starting position at some point. Yeah. I understand that people were saying like, well, he would have had obviously more games then and better stats probably, which I agree with that, but it's really hard to play the what if, the maybe game, because it's like you could say that about anybody. You could say that like, what if Nicklas Backstrom had a better offense in front of him when he played? Well, maybe his stats would have been 10 times better. So I hate to play the what if game. I know it's easy to kind of go down that rabbit hole, but I will give people credit, making that point that you don't know what would have happened if he would have been able to stay healthy. So he
might not have been that great. I mean, there's always, you got to look at the other side of the coin too, right? So he might not, but I like him. And just again, for the sake of, we can't be the same. We can't both like Nicklas Backstrom.
I've got enough love for Nicklas Backstrom for all of us. So you guys can, you can pick a different one to argue for.
I say Darcy Kemper. Kemper.
Fred, no.
Darcy.
Are you being serious?
I would have rather you said Ilya Brzgalov personally.
Someone did say that. I don't know if it was a joke.
Molesky did, I think. Yeah. I mean,
No, there was someone else too who said that. Someone just wrote like Brzgalov, and that was the comment. And I was like, is this person serious?
Oh yeah, Matt Hackett. Maybe we should have tossed him in there just for
Throwback.
the heck. Yeah, I love it. Jose Theodore. You know, we had some tendies here in Minnesota.
There's
None
some
of them that
interesting
great.
takes. I'll say that much. Yeah, it was a really close call because I think especially with net minding, you can put so many asterisks on like, you know, what defines them as a good netminder, because at the end of the day, people do this with quarterbacks, people do it with goalies. The blame gets put on those people, whether it's their fault or not. When a win is won and a loss is lost, people immediately go to those kind of positions to place blame or praise. So it's fun to argue these kind of points because there is a lot of different angles you can take on it. But I'm glad that we actually have different. I know sometimes it's hard for us to find like a different take because we agree so much, but this was a good one. I was glad to see people having a lot of different takes on this one.
Heck yeah, that was our Up for Debate. There'll be more of those coming again. If you have a suggestion for an Up for the Debate topic, we'd love to hear it.
Yeah.
Mix it in, toss it out there. See, get some of the Wild fans stir in the pot, get them talking. I love to do it. Before we get to our guest, Keith Ballard, we're going to take a quick break. Just another reminder to please donate to the Janice Foligno Foundation. We have teamed up with Marcus Foligno to help raise some money for a foundation that was named in his mom's honor after she lost her battle with breast cancer in 2009. If you send us a DM of your donation and your address, we will shoot you out an autographed Marcus Foligno photo, and then you will be entered to win an autographed jersey and or stick. So be sure to make those donations. Again, any little bit helps. Marcus is so appreciative of everybody's help and of our help, so we'd love to help him out and his family as well.
And they normally get to do like other things, like don't they normally do like a golf tournament or something? And because of COVID this year, they weren't able to do it. So this is a great year to step in and do something like that because they had some of those opportunities taken away from them because of COVID. So yeah, even if you can't do $20, if you can do $5, if you can do 10, if you want to do 100, go for it. We love it, and we love Marcus, so we're happy to help. And it's a season of giving, so throw some money down there.
And Janice Foligno Foundation is dedicated to helping raise awareness not only in the battle against cancer, but a lot of that money goes to research and other organizations and foundations that are also in the good fight against cancer. So be sure to check that out. Links in all of our bios and DMs. So every donation helps. We appreciate it. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back with Keith Ballard.
We've given our Teespring store a fresh new look, custom designed to rep and support the Beauts. We've got hockey hoodies and tees perfect for lounging and rewatching your favorite Wild game. Grab a mask, grab a tee, and be a Beaut with our official Bardown Beauties Teespring store.
We're back. Joining us now, one of the greatest Gopher defensemen in all time and prolific in underwater basket weaving, from what we hear, Mr. Keith Ballard. Keith, how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you guys doing?
We're good.
We're good. Thanks for joining us. Now, underwater basket weaving. We're not going to jump around the questions here. We had Paul Martin on the podcast a couple weeks ago, and you know he's back at school. And we said, have you talked to some of your former buddies about going back to the U and what kind of classes to take? And he mentioned that you chose underwater basket weaving as your education path when you went back to the U. True or false?
It was close. It was close, and I did listen to the episode, and I did talk to Paul after. No, I took, when I went back about 5 years ago, and college at 33 is a lot different than college at 18.
A little bit.
I think part of it is realizing what you actually need to know and apply to your life.
Yeah.
So I took a lot of classes that were very helpful. I did take a couple that anybody who's graduated college has taken a couple. I
Just
think
schedule fillers, right?
The one I took was called The Care and Nutrition of a Companion Animal.
Very important.
It was online. It fulfilled the credit or 3 credits or whatever, and some sort of obligation I needed.
Well, I just got to say,
thankfully, in
Paul's defense, he threw you under the bus and then immediately apologized for throwing you under the bus. So that's like what a good friend does. You're going to jab a little bit, you're going to make fun, but you're immediately going to apologize. I'm
going to be honest, you're not going to find a better human being than Paul Martin. Even though he did give me a hard time, he's one of the best people I'm so thankful to be his friend, and to, one, I've played with him, but 2, we've grown close even past college, and he's an outstanding person.
Well, he talked about, going back to school and that experience kind of, post hockey career and all of that. You mentioned, going back at age 33. What was that experience like for you just in general? Like you said, it's a lot different than coming out of high school and going into college, or even in your 20s. That's a totally different thing. So what was the overall experience like for you? Yeah, I could barely do it at 18. So
I had a notebook and a pen, and everybody had laptops. I didn't realize that's the deal now. I didn't own a laptop at the time. That was different. The one benefit, I think, going back as an older, in my 30s, is if you just try and show the teacher you're like, the younger kids are nervous and they're scared of the teacher. Where I was like, okay, they're not going to fail you. Show up, do the work, and you'll be fine. If you need help, ask for help. Show that you're trying. Teachers don't want you to fail.
Right.
And so I was in a couple group projects with some, 18, 19, 20-year-olds, and they were really, the anxiety was building up about what's my grade, what are we going to get? I'm like, we'll be fine. We've done the work. She knows we're trying. She's not going to fail us.
Heck, is that something you wish you could have told young Keith back when he was in school? Or, I mean, were you kind of more even focused just on hockey realistically, right? I mean, you're there, you're playing on a successful team, back-to-back championships yourself. I mean, was that kind of hard to navigate being a student athlete, especially when the Gopher hockey team was so successful like you guys were?
I think so. You know what I got? I majored in sport management. So it was a small program. It was actually hard to get into. You had to have, I think, it was ballpark of 3.3 to 3.5 GPA to get in. But it was all small classes. So attendance was a big thing. And however my brain works, I was able just to remember, because I had to show up. So I remembered enough stuff to do well in school.
Yeah.
So the stress wasn't really there. The classes were good. They were, you do the marketing classes, and just like you do at Carlson, but they were all geared towards sports.
That's got to be easier to have a passion for it, right? I mean, you're more than just hockey too, right? If I'm not mistaken, you were football, you were golf back in high school. I mean, how important tell us about the importance sports have played in your life, as a kid, and now even as an adult, as your own kids are starting to play sports too.
You're excited for each season. And it bums me out, one, as a parent, and two, as a youth coach, seeing kids at 7, 8, 9, 10 specializing, and I'm a left wing, or I play on this team, and this team, versus I play football, I play soccer, I play baseball, I play hockey. So growing up, one, I'm from a very small town. It's 1,000 people. So if we all didn't play multiple sports, we wouldn't have teams.
Makes sense.
And that made it a lot easier. And my buddies were doing it. And I loved the competition. In the fall, I loved getting ready for football season. And that's over. And the next day, hockey practice starts. For me, that made me excited. In the summertime, as I got older, I geared more towards hockey. But golf was always a big part of it. I tried the baseball thing for a little bit. We didn't have soccer growing up. I wish we did. It's so important because you learn so many skills. And like you guys mentioned, you had Paul on. I don't know if I've seen a better athlete than Paul Martin in my life. And he doesn't look like it. He looks like he just left the Beatles concert.
That's actually really accurate, like incredibly accurate.
I watched him sitting in the passenger side, and this was in college, of a Jeep Wrangler they had the top off, going 30 miles an hour. Somebody threw a football to him, and he caught it out the side of the car one-handed.
Wow, that's amazing.
But he was he quit hockey for a bit.
Yeah. Right.
And all of a sudden, then he's on the varsity team, and then he's played 900 games in the NHL.
Well, let's fast forward to your college career. We talked about back-to-back championship with Paul. Let's talk about it with you. What was that like to be a part of that experience? Paul, I believe, described one of them as the Thomas Vanek show, and everybody was along for the ride. Do you have any? Do you have any good stories from those years?
can I say, I don't know if there's any of them I can say on here.
Hey, we always like
I'll
to say
say
your
this.
secrets are safe with us. We won't tell anybody. So whatever you want to say, we'll keep it safe.
I'll say this. I came in as a freshman, and we had Jordan Leopold was a senior and Paul Martin as a sophomore. And for myself coming in, you can't find two better people to learn from. So it was kind of just sit back and absorb it, try to get better, and try to be as good as they are. Because those are two of the best defensemen to ever play for the University of Minnesota.
Mm-hmm.
And then the leadership we had with Johnny Pohl, Pat O'Leary, Leopold, Eric Wendell, Adam Hauser, all the senior guys were outstanding. I remember early on, maybe before the season started my freshman year, they kind of pulled the freshmen aside and said, you guys need to be freshmen, pick up pucks, help load the bus, all the stuff you're supposed to do. But we need you comfortable because all you guys are a very important part of this team, and we want to do well. And sometimes in college, you don't see that. You see freshmen not including everybody.
Yeah.
And they were the opposite, and they said, we can do good things this year, and we need you guys. And we need you guys to be comfortable and play well. Just do what you're supposed to do, and then go play.
Right. Do you think I'm not sure how much you've obviously been around many college teams anymore these days, but do you think that has changed a little bit where teams are starting to recognize like we all really need to come together, whether it's in the college locker room or even on the professional scale of things, right? Like you guys all need to work together. You all have the same common goal. And as trite as that may sound, I think sometimes it does get forgotten, right? Because tradition says, hey, I'm older, I'm the vet, I get to have this sort of seniority. But in reality, you can't get anything accomplished without the unity of everybody.
I think the common ground you're going to find there is successful teams.
Mm-hmm.
And whether that's college, high school, NHL, AHL, what have you, successful teams are generally the closest teams. They're generally the teams where the leaders take everybody in, the leaders get everybody to be on the same page, to follow suit, to do what needs to be done to win. And they understand that we're all doing this together.
After college, obviously, you went on to an NHL career. You played with the Minnesota Wild for a little bit of time as well. Talk about your NHL experience and, some of the fun things that happened during that time.
Gosh, it was, it was a lot of fun. I got 3 years in Phoenix, 2 years in Florida, 3 in Vancouver, and technically 2, but a year and a half with Minnesota.
Mm-hmm.
It was always fun to play, and I loved every spot for different reasons. I met a lot of awesome people. In the back of my mind, I always wanted to play in Minnesota, and I'm glad I did at the end rather than the beginning. I think it would have been too much at the beginning, being younger and you have your buddies around and all that. But being able to do it with family and appreciate, the ability for them to come watch you play on a regular basis.
Mm-hmm.
Friends, if they wanted to, could, they can come and watch you play. Because as you get older, life's the same, whether you're in your hometown or somewhere else. It's kind of go to work, go home. You got your family stuff, your kids stuff, and everything else. It's no different. So I enjoyed that part of it, having my kids be in the room and be around it. I think I appreciated it more playing at home at the end than I would have early on.
Did that make, obviously your end kind of came abruptly almost, right? You dealt with concussions. Did that make handling some of those challenges in that situation a little bit easier because you were surrounded by familiarity and your family and friends, and as difficult as it probably was nice to do that at home with people that you knew, right?
Yes, much easier. No, I remember, the day after I woke up at the hospital and I'm in there and my agent's right there, Ben Hankinson, who's
he's another
person.
Beaut. We had him on the podcast as well.
Did you really?
Yeah, we did.
Yeah. He's great. I'm surprised he's not still talking.
I know, right? I think that was like a 2-hour-long episode, something like that, give or take.
But he's there. My wife's there. It's 15-minute drive home to see my kids, and that stuff's easy, right? When you're at home. The ability to now connect with other people in the community. I still have a lot of the guys in the Wild are still good buddies of mine. They're all around here.
Mm-hmm.
So coach some of their kids in hockey. It was kind of a good ending spot for me.
So, you mentioned coaching, which was another question we wanted to ask you about. We talked about it with Paul, kind of that transition from, college playing to NHL playing and then moving into a coaching position. What is that transition like? I mean, you know the sport well, obviously, but what are some challenges you face on the coaching side of things?
I love it. And I coach little kids, right?
Yeah.
I coach my son's Mite team, and I coach my daughter's 10U team. And I love it. For a couple reasons. One, it's kind of hockey at its purest form. I've coached, I think this is my 4th year. But you get these little kids on the ice, and your goal is, at the young ages, to make them want to come back tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
So it's fun. And you're learning stuff along the way. You're doing a lot of development, but your goal is, I want this kid to love hockey. And part of the reason I do it is I think, I look back at me growing up and my experiences. People took time out of their life and made a positive impact on me. And that's kind of what I want to do.
Mm-hmm.
It's super fun having your kids in it. I don't know if I'd have the patience if my kids weren't in it to do it all the time.
You mean kids don't want to listen all the time and kind of do
Exactly.
things who knew, right?
Exactly. No, but I have a lot of fun with it. I love seeing them, one, get better, develop, but enjoy hockey, make new friends, meet, they've made so many friends that they may have not made without hockey.
Right.
And I always think, I'm going to be there anyway. I'd rather be on the ice than sitting in the stands with my Caribou coffee.
I don't disagree with you there. You're a big Team USA guy. You had been on a number of international squads. You went to the US NTDP. And USA Hockey has really kind of pushed that agenda forward of let's make it fun for these kids. We're not as worried about, making them exactly the best at 8U. We want them to stick around and come in. How wonderful has it been to implement some of that ADM model and really see it go to work and really not only churn out kids that love hockey, but churn out the skilled players as well, especially here in Minnesota?
The ADM model is outstanding. We use it every week for our Mite teams. We've got 36 kids on the ice when everybody shows up. So the ability to go station to station, keep kids in small groups, especially now, hopefully we get back to play again this year, but you're doing fun things and they don't realize what they're working on. They don't always realize they're getting better, but they're having a blast. And you see these smiles on these 6 and 7-year-old kids' faces. And then they don't realize they're using their inside edges, outside edges. All of a sudden they're learning to skate backwards. So it's very helpful for us.
Well, and they're touching the puck, right? I think that's probably my favorite thing is you don't see kids standing in line. I mean, if it's done correctly, kids are always moving and they're playing and having fun.
Always moving. Yes, they are. And you see some practices, let's say it's $180 an hour or something.
Yeah.
And you've got a team of 12 out there on a full ice and half the kids are standing around. Well, that doesn't always work. The best practices for these kids, everyone's moving, everyone's getting touches, and everyone's having fun.
Right.
ADM's got a lot of competition drills in there that as we've progressed in the last couple of years, we're implementing more and more competition. And then you can also kind of tailor it to that group you have. If you've got some better kids, you can make the drill a little bit harder. They give you a lot of flexibility on that, which is very helpful.
I had mentioned the NTDP, and for Minnesota kids, that can be a really tough decision, right? Because you have the high school hockey tournament and people love playing for the association. The community-based model is so strong. What was that decision like for you to leave and go play with the NTDP and kind of go that route, which is still obviously boded well for your career and everybody has a different path, but how did you come to that conclusion for yourself?
It was after, so I got asked to go after my freshman year, so I would have been a sophomore, and I just, thankfully, I think I made the right decision. I don't think I was ready to leave home as a 10th grader. I still loved football. I loved playing football. But quite frankly, we didn't have a good high school team.
Sure.
We had some good players. Out of our team, so it would have been kind of the group that came up, Pee-wees and Bantams. We had 3 guys play Division I hockey, which for a small association was good. And all 3 of us ended up going to the NTDP. It was shock at first, going from a town of 1,000 to a school of 1,000.
Right.
But at the end of the day, it was probably the right decision for me. I would have loved to play in the state tournament, but there was not a chance in hell we're going to play in the state tournament.
That's just honesty, right? Sometimes you got to realize
we weren't. And it got to a point, like growing up, all I wanted to do was make the high school team. Right. That was my goal. I didn't think about the NHL. I didn't think about college. But later in high school, I started thinking maybe I could play college hockey. Still never thought about the NHL, but that was kind of where I was at. It was hard to leave home, but my best friend was already there. We were on the same team, John Weibel. We grew up together. Going there with him and then being able to go to the U of M with him was awesome.
Now, I have a question. I want to move away from hockey for a second, which is crazy to believe because it's a hockey podcast, but we're going to turn this into a Minnesota resort podcast instead. And we're going to talk about Ballard's Resort. Do you have any availability coming up soon? Because I could use a vacation.
Same. We'd love to just come up there and shoot the shit, maybe ice fish, whatever you want to have us for.
That's a great question. I would call now. It is really busy. So my sister runs it. It's Lake of the Woods is outstanding.
Yeah,
it really is. I'm not making this up when I say I drove my snowmobile to hockey practice every day.
Just Minnesota, you love it. You love to hear it.
It's a fun way to grow up, and you don't know any different as a kid, right?
Yeah.
You don't know that it's 100 miles to Target because you don't really care about going to Target. You know, your activities are shooting clay pigeons with your 20 gauge in the backyard. You know, stuff like that. So no, it's the resort's been good. It's been they've done a good job. My sister's done a really good job. My parents have done a good job. Love going back up there. I don't think my kids realize how good the fishing is. They'll catch 4 walleyes in 15 minutes and say, "Oh, should we go in now?" Like, no, we're gonna catch 100 today.
Yeah,
fish are biting. Yeah,
we're saying.
Yes.
That's amazing. What do you use? What's your go-to lure and bait?
I cannot tell you.
Come on.
I need confidential.
I'm a Rainy Lake girl. I'm sorry. I'm a Rainy Lake girl, but I need to get to Lake of the Woods. I've never been that way. I'm dying to go. There and Red Lake are the two.
It's not too much further.
I know.
Just go a little west and you're there.
Exactly. I got to do it. But so no tips. What about do you have a secret spot or have you kind of gone all over? I'm sure you've had this.
Have you ever heard a fisherman tell their secret spot?
Yeah.
Jesse, he's already determined that this is confidential information. Now you're pushing him.
I'm going to work. I'm working on it. That's what a reporter does, right? Like, where are we going?
His advice was to keep fishing if you get 4 walleyes in 15 minutes. What more do you want?
Yes. Keep fishing. Keep fishing.
Are you summer fisherman or ice fish or both?
You know, I like summer.
Yeah.
I've got a cabin up by Brainerd area. I love bass fishing, to be very honest. Growing up as a walleye fisherman, and quite honestly, growing up, I didn't fish it. I mean, I fished a lot, but not a ton.
At least by Minnesotan standards.
Exactly. I've caught many, many walleyes, and I think part of it as a kid, you don't realize what you have, right? You don't realize that you're sitting on one of the best fisheries in North America, and your family owns a resort, and it's at your disposal to hop in a boat any day you want. But at the same time, I was also still doing kid stuff, right? I love to go ride my bikes, play with my buddies, go golfing. And then as I got older, hockey was kind of more prominent. So in living up there, it wasn't an Edina kid driving to Plymouth for the weekend for a tournament. It was a Baudette kid driving 350 miles to Bloomington for a tournament.
Right.
So it was there ended up being a lot of that stuff as I got older.
Did you find you get more requests for tickets when you played for the Wild, or more requests for you to take folks fishing or stay up at your family's resort? I feel like both are such Minnesota things, right?
It is so funny. So the first year I played for the Wild, because they give you 2 tickets for home games, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, all right, we're gonna, in-laws are here. I got all my buddies here. My parents they'll come down a bunch. So I bought 2 more season tickets for the year. So I got 4. Halfway through the year, like who the hell is gonna come? Like, does anyone want tickets? And I would just
trying
end
to
up
give them away.
Yeah. Because all my buddies, they're in the same boat. They're raising a young family. Their kids have stuff to do. A Tuesday night from Wayzata to St. Paul is a little bit of a hike.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But on the fishing side, I still get phone calls every now and then. I've had the same phone number since college. So you've got, the 3 guys used to be at the library bar with. In 2002.
Shout out to the library, the greatest
Yes.
bar down in Dinkytown. Amazing.
R.I.P.
I didn't go till I was 21, so.
Right, of course.
Yeah, me neither.
But I still get phone calls about, hey, can you set me up at the resort? And I'm like, no, I literally cannot. I don't have that pull.
Right.
It's not my deal. Same last name, same family, but it's not my deal. That's my sister's deal.
That's awesome.
Ask her if you can get a free trip.
Yeah, all right, that's fair. We could do that. How about
What I
has
usually do.
Has Bufflin hit you up? I feel like he'd love to go.
Yeah, he's a
live
big
on Lake of the
fisherman.
Woods. He's a big fisherman.
Buff's up there all the time. He's got a place up on Lake of the Woods.
Ah, see, there you go.
Yes.
He figured it out.
No, he's great. I love Dustin.
Yeah.
I've known him since he was he's a couple years younger than me. I've known him since we were both kids. He grew up in Roseau, and it's an hour from me. So never really played against him. He was always missed him by about a year.
Sure.
But him and I are good buddies now.
Well, especially you both have Hankinson. I know Ben Hankinson's probably still trying to get Bufflin on the phone. Last we had him, he said Buff won't return any of his calls. So, Dustin, if you're listening.
Buff has email.
That doesn't sound surprising.
Yeah.
No, everyone says like, oh, I just put my phone away for a little bit and wasn't looking at it. We're all lying when we say that.
Yeah.
Except Buff. He will throw it in the sock drawer for a week, and he doesn't care one bit.
I envy that life. That sounds pretty darn amazing. It sounds perfect to go, get lost on the lake for a bit and catch some fish and use what kind of bait should you be using? Probably I use
the one with hooks.
There we go.
Let's keep it simple. A nice jig and a minnow.
That's my go-to too. I use a hammer gold and a nice shiner, and it's done okay, right? I know
we're on the same page, Jesse.
Yeah, I like it.
I wasn't gonna say shiners, but you said it. So.
Maybe.
I have one final question. I'm not sure if Jesse has any more, but Paul obviously threw you under the bus when we had him on. So I want to open the floor to you to throw him under the bus. If you have any beef you want to air out, now is the time. We can make sure to send it his way. Is there any of his secrets you want to spill? Anything that you want to share with us?
I told him I was going to tell some stories about him.
Smart.
And he said, most of the stories about me you probably can't tell. No, Paul is... One, it's hard to say something bad about such a good person. This sums up Paul. Is a couple years ago, he's playing in San Jose, and they were coming to town, and I called him. I said, hey, can you grab, so I got a 10-year-old daughter, 7-year-old boy, 4-year-old boy. And I said, can you get Luke, my middle one? I said, can you grab Lucas Shark's jersey? He really wants one. And I'll meet you down at the rink in the morning, whatever. He calls back, and I think we only had 2 kids at the time. So he calls back, and he's like, hey, what about Ava? He's like, does she want anything? I'm like, I didn't even think of that. Like, he's thinking about,
have that other kid of mine.
He comes with a gift bag. Looks like, I don't know, maybe the size of one of those IKEA bags, those big yellow ones. It's about this big.
Yeah.
He's like, hey, I got stuff for all the kids, and loaded them up, like the foam fingers, the stuffed mascot.
He's just raiding the San Jose Sharks merch store at the rink.
Yeah. And I'm
That's awesome.
But that's how he thinks. Now, I will say this. You can call Paul all you want, and he won't answer. But you get a text message back in about a minute. You'll call, he won't answer. Like, hey, what are you doing? I just called you. I'm a phone call guy. I'm not a text guy.
Yeah, that's
but
so
he
funny.
He is an out. I wasn't exaggerating when I said he's one of the best humans I've ever been around, and lucky to be friends with him.
Well, and you are likewise one of the greatest human beings that we are a pleasure to be around. So we really appreciate you taking the time, again, on this Wednesday before Thanksgiving, that you get to spend with your family. And we hope you enjoy the rest of it. Thank you so much, Keith, for joining us.
Thank you, guys. Stay safe. Have a great Thanksgiving.
Yeah, you as well. Thank you.
All right, guys, we're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Hey guys, this is producer Fred. I just wanted to make sure everyone is out there subscribing, liking, sharing, rating, anything you can to help grow the Beauts would be amazing. I want you to tell your hockey coach. I want you to tell your grandma. I want to tell your friends, everybody. And by the way, check out our merch. Buy our merch. Bye.
We're back. Thanks again to Keith for jumping in and joining us. I'm going to get out his secret spot. I'm going to get out what he's fishing with. I must know everything. Although I do. I love my go-tos, but I like to hear what other people have going on. I like to
You
try
were really
things.
going in on the hard journalism. It was like when I tried to get Charlie Coyle to admit which team he didn't want to play for when he found out he got traded. It was the same approach. But hey, interviews aren't easy, people. Sometimes you really got to dig deep for those answers. So,
and I was doing that for you guys, all of you fishermen out there who I know are heading to Lake of the Woods. I was thinking of you because I'm a good fisherman. I don't really need any help. But thanks again to Keith. It was so great to have him on. We'll be sure to have him on again sometime when the season resumes. He can maybe update us on his kiddos and their team. So without further ado, we are going to get to our favorite segment of the episode, where Alexis dives back into her youth hockey journal to air out her grievances with the Minnesota Wild and probably the Calgary Flames. Here it is. Dear Diary with Alexis.
Wild versus Oilers, January 30th, 2009. If you thought we were going to win this game, you're funny. Hilarious. I'd write more, but I'm laughing too hard. Ha 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 ha. In all capital letters.
So aggressive.
Psycho.
Yeah, a little bit.
And that's Dear Diary with Alexis.
So not the Flames, but another Northwest Division team. And now this is my time for my weekly plug to please bring back the Northwest Division. It is all I want.
Naturally. We do have questions, but don't forget that is now a YouTube exclusive. So be sure you're subscribed to our YouTube channel in order to check out our answers for those. Some really good ones this week, including NWHL talk, Marco Rossi talk, and what position might Alexis and I have played if we had played hockey? I mean, all-star positions, obviously. So be sure to go give our YouTube channel a look. Again, don't forget to send a donation to Marcus Foligno. Be sure to shop our Teespring store, shopsodastick.com, our presenting sponsors. Shout out to them. Shout out to Talk North for featuring us on their lovely broadcasting network. Shout out to producer Fred. What's up, producer Fred? Thank you for always keeping us in line.
So awesome.
Shout out to Alexis for brushing her hair this week.
I mean,
Come on, where's my credit? Where's my credit?
It wasn't for us.
Yeah, it wasn't for us. You have a date.
It ended up being for you. Hey,
you have
listen.
a date. Come on.
Listen, it ended up being for you guys, so it's fine. It's what?
We'll just call it a happy coincidence.
there we go.
That works out
Either
perfect.
way, you're welcome.
And shout out to everybody else. Thank you guys for listening again. Hope you guys had a great Thanksgiving last week. We'll be back next week with more great content. Thanks. Have a good one. Near